Hi parents, this is a video to go over the different things about different types of coloring utensils. So I wanted to go over it with you because I know at home we're limited options and sometimes you only have a certain amount of one crayon or one marker, and I wanted to go over what the reason is that I sometimes choose one thing or another. First, we're going to go over colored pencils. Colored pencils have high resistance in sensory. What that means is that they scratch a lot. Sometimes the kids explain that they feel that in their ears, and that's really uncomfortable for them. They need to use a little bit more force too to get a good, accurate color. The other thing about colored pencils is that they are long. So what happens is that they might try to hold it in a gross grasp and color, which is not as accurate as a tripod grasp. Another way that they might grasp it is this way, which I really don't mind too much because they are building up their strength and developing that tripod grasp still. It's right there, but it's not necessarily the gross grasp that their forearms in the wrong position. The third thing about colored pencils is they're really accurate. They stay in one spot. If your child has an issue with using too much pressure, they may break it though, and then they may also color way outside the lines because they are trying to get it dark. That sometimes children do as well. The last thing that's really nice about a colored pencil is that when after you color it, say I went out of the lines and I made a mistake, I can erase that. Because some of our kids really hate mistakes, and that may be a problem. So the nice thing about colored pencils is that they do allow for mistakes. Crayons. Crayons have a medium resistance, so they're not as scratchy as colored pencil, but they also are not as least resistant like markers. So in terms of crayons, they have a medium resistance. You feel them when you rub it, but it's not bad. Some of our kids really hate the feeling of a crayon, so they end up doing better with a marker when they're first learning to color or write. But I'll get to that when we get to markers. So a crayon can be long, or you can break it, and it's short. One of my favorite things is broken crayons because you really can't do a gross grasp on a broken crayon because the crayon's gone. There it is in my hand. So the nice thing about a broken crayon is that you can color it like this. Let's see, crayons tend to be less accurate. You can see I made more mistakes, especially a big crayon versus a small crayon. Small crayons will be more accurate, but your child may hold the big crayon better, and if they use a lot of force, there's less chance they're going to break it. But they do tend to have more mistakes on the outside, and that's okay. Just be aware of that. Know if you switch between colored pencils and crayons, you may have some accuracy issues. And the last thing is they are not erasable. So if you color with a crayon and then you try to erase it, you're going to pretty much destroy your eraser, and then it's not fixable. So that's okay too. Just be aware of it. If your child is one that has issues with mistakes, you may want to support them more when they're coloring with a crayon, because you would want to make sure that they have success, and you wouldn't want to make sure that they're having meltdowns over having made a mistake. Markers. The thing about markers is first you have to open them. Now kids, when they're first learning to open a marker, tend to try to do the part that you manipulate more with their preferred hand. That would be my right hand, and I would pull it off. And then now what's happening? The crayon is in my left hand, the marker is in my left hand, and I need to switch it to my right. Again, right there, that was a motor skill that involved how many steps? We opened it, put this down, and switch it. Also, kids tend to get distracted about putting it on the end. They don't necessarily have to put it on the end. It's a great fine motor skill, but if your goal is coloring, teach them to put the lid to the side and then color. So that's about opening them. That takes some time. The next thing is that they're long. There are some short markers that like go like this. I forget what they're called, but there are some short markers that go like this. But either way, they're going to be able to use a full gross grasp on them. I think there's some little animal markers are the only ones I've ever seen that were ones that you would hold like this. But they're going to try to go to the gross grasp. Remember, we want to have this grasp or this grasp. Some of my kids, especially with a long marker like this, might try to do this. The reason when we color like this is that they then learn to motor plan with all their fingers on the pencil. I mean the marker. That makes it actually very hard. So we do definitely want to try to have a tripod grasp if we can. These are not erasable. You can buy markers that are erasable. That may be something that you want to look into if your child has issues with mistakes. The best thing about markers is they have very little resistance when you color. So when you color, you don't get a lot of that feedback. So that's why a lot of kids do well. If you notice, these markers are actually quite noisy. So there might be some sensory defensive in listening. But these are the things that I look at when I choose what kind of coloring item I should use with your kids. So keep in mind, there are different options. You may not have any options now that we're all home, but do the best you can and see how it works. Thank you.